Peace and blessings, everyone. Shout out to my gang. Much love. Thank you so much for your endless support. Shout out to my Patreon gang. And big shout out to all those who have recently found my channel. You are not here by coincidence. So please feel free to comment below. Comment on the video. Comment if you have any requests for future content. I'm always looking at the comments. I will always take what you guys say into consideration. So y'all, we're gonna jump right into this reading, right? I'll briefly explain what I'm reading about. This reading will be regarded around the cult Heaven's Gate. The cult started in 1974. Fast forward to 1997. There were 39 suicide victims recovered by the authorities. And this cult, they call the cult of all cults, has taken the world by fascination ever since. It's very eerie. It's very odd. It's a lot of intricate details that go into this. So please feel free to go back and watch some documentaries. Excuse me. There are so much YouTube material and content focused around this particular cult. So I won't waste too much time talking about it. I'm just here to do the tarot reading. But please feel free to go back and watch some of it if you're not familiar with it before you watch my reading. But I am going to consider the fact that if you're here, you have heard about this cult and you would like to watch this reading. So let's get into it, you guys. So I will open up with my Mama Magical Oracle deck, and then I'm going to jump right into the tarot to see if we can get some more details. Heaven's Gate, Heaven's Gate, Heaven's Gate. They show us the energy that surrounded Heaven's Gate, the cult's Heaven's Gate. Reveal to us the truth. The clear and concise answer, Spirit. We thank you for your divine wisdom and God's guidance at this time. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Let me pull a couple of more. Let's see what comes out. Affirmation, vacation. Okay, so first and foremost, this is interesting to me because we know the group of people that were a part of this cult constantly had to relocate, right? Especially in the beginning, they were always having like these secret meetings, secret gatherings that were called classrooms. So they were constantly on the move. It would be kind of hard to catch up with these people. Almost kind of gives like a nomadic energy a little bit. So almost like an outlaw type of energy. So they were constantly in movement. They were constantly in one place, in one state from another. A lot of family and friends, they were heartbroken. They were concerned because they would go months, sometimes even years without talking to their family members that were a part of this group of people. So that is so interesting how that comes out. They had to denounce a lot of things in their life. They had to denounce sexuality. They had to denounce friends. They had to denounce all things that they were into before joining this group, even by way of career. It's so interesting how close your mouth card comes out. Secrecy. Once again, you cannot tell anyone, not your parents, not your children. You cannot tell anyone about what goes on the inside of this cult. So that was a really big thing. The mystery around it, you know, was very fascinating to people, but yet very cold, scary, and eerie to a lot of people. Then we have the jail reverse. That speaks about the law, the FBI. You know, they were all involved. They were getting constant report from concerned family members as to what happened. They moved so much because they thought they were being watched, and they were. They were very paranoid and full of anxiety and worry to the point where it was extreme paranoia, if you will. Once again, having to denounce family, having to cut off everyone. And they would use in a weird, twisted way, use the text of the Bible to back up these spiritual beliefs. This cult was run by Applewhite Head and Nettles, and they went by the name of Doe and T. They were the quote-unquote elders of the group. They would consider them the older members of the group. So they were kind of like the saviors of everyone else. Everyone completely put all their faith and belief in these two people. Once again, I'm not going to go too deep into it because that would be time consuming. Self-care choice. Once again, neglecting themselves. But it was like they were kind of, the way that T and Doe would kind of get people to follow them, if you will, but it's by way of seduction. almost. Like, you have free will, you have choice. So they never had the feeling that they were being forced. But some way that free will, that choice was a way to make people feel comfortable and open themselves up enough to blindly be led. You know, it's almost like a sick and twisted manipulative way to get people to think, I'm not controlling you, but I will control you by way of having you believe that I'm not controlling you, if that makes sense. I know there was a little mental gymnastics there. Patience cleanse. So a lot of their faith was based on patience. They never really seen things come to pass, but they had to believe, like, okay, well, this is what they say. I believe in it so much. I know that aliens will, you know, take us up to heaven, because that's what they thought. They thought that their physical bodies would transform into these alien bodies. They would call their bodies the vehicle, and they believed that one day that they would, you know, their bodies would transform after, you know, being disciplined and doing all the things that they were required to do. Their bodies would be transformed into these alien bodies, and a UFO would come down, descend, take them up to heaven, and that was the way to heaven. So a lot of it was with patience, weeks, months, years. Remember, guys, this started in 1974. So by the time they did the mass suicide, that was in 1997. So they believed all this time that this would happen. We got cleanse reverse. That lets us know there's a lot of dirty things going on. It was not as sacred and as holy as they thought it was. As a matter of fact, they, you know, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people of the Christian faith will believe they kind of took their religion, their belief system, the Holy Bible, the sacred text, and desecrated it. So I hope that makes sense. Let it go, release, time to move on. So they knew that they had to release. Marriages, they were broken up. People, you know, if your husband got involved, if your wife, you would be an outsider to the society that they had, you know, ultimately joined. And they thought that they would get blessings out of this. That's what they really thought. You know, if we just stay faithful, if we just, you know, just keep on, you know, doing what is told to us. You know, my family, they don't understand. They don't get it, but they're the ones that's hindering us anyway. It's just my vehicle. They would say things like that. It's my vehicle that cares about my wife and about family members. You know, so they had to release and let it go in hopes that they will be blessed and they will ascend. They will get to the next level, is what they would call it. Confirmation, year, abundance. Yeah, so they thought that they were protected. They thought that they were okay, guys, but it was abusive. You see how we have all these timelines. Health. People neglected their health. Unfortunately, T died of cancer of the eye. You know, so it was a lot of question of abuse, sexual abuse too, and mental abuse. I'm going to get into that too, because they were supposed to go boundaries, manifest, celebrations, reverse, happiness, reverse. So they were supposed to also denounce the gender. They were to be genderless, and they were also several members that were actually castrated. Several male members that had to be castrated. But I have the question is, was there really no sexual activity in those places? You know, that they would go, that would live together. But we're going to jump into the tarot, because I got some questions. I need some details. Heaven's Gate, Heaven's Gate. So I'm going to focus on Applewhite for a moment. What's this? That was him. He was the leader. He was the leader. They put all their trust and faith and everything into him. They were taught to believe that, you know, the value of money was null and void. You didn't need money to be here. All of those things were, you know, earthly desires, if you will. But then they were using money in people's trust funds and things like that to live in mansions eventually. Because at first they would go to campground, and then eventually they bought a home where they would rent mansions in nice upper class neighborhoods. Applewhite. Okay, so let me see. I want to see Applewhite's energy, his mental state in the beginning when he first decided to start this cult. Applewhite, show us his state of mind when in the very beginnings of him coming together and creating this cult. He was ready to be a leader. He was ready to, he had a lot of confidence starting off too, guys, especially with this Fool and this Sun energy. Those are very two powerful cards. He had a lot of confidence. Even though he was trying to take almost a spiritual approach to the situation, because remember that his father, I believe, was a minister. So he always had a very strong religious background, instead a background and foundation. But he kind of went unconventional when he met T. This is him in T. When he met her, because she was into the mystical things, the esoteric teachings, the quote unquote new age, things. She was very much into that. So he kind of went renegade a little bit with that, with what he brought, what he was brought up with, his belief system that he was brought up with. So his King of Swords reverse, that talks about his state of mind. Sometimes this talks about a very, King of Swords reverse can be very cold and be very manipulative and very, very controlling, and will control your mind if you allow them to do that. So he was very bold on this new journey. He was jumping into unmarked territory, and there was something in the back of his mind that kind of was pulling him, to almost sort of a resistance there, but he continued to move forward with this because he had an influence of another woman in his life. Now, mind you, this was not a sexual approach or relationship with this woman, because he was in fact gay, a gay man. But they had some type of, something about the two of them drew each other, even though that they were kind of opposites, but they still had a lot of spirituality, and they knew that they wanted to take what they had known and take it to another level. So he came in with that leadership. We have two kings here. So him and Nettles were the leaders of the situation. They knew that they wanted to lead. They knew that they wanted to be in, have some sort of community-based spirituality, that they wanted to have other people gather and, be like-minded like them. So he was full of optimism about the situation. He was excited. He was ready, even with that resistance here. But something happened along the way. You see how they start Two of Cups, two people coming together, but sometimes they don't come together for the right things. Them ultimately bringing people together, coming together, cause a lot of death and misfortune. We also see that sitting here. See them again here. We have the Five of Pentacles reversed. That's two people coming together. So you see how this story kind of changed right here, even just between these two supporting cards. How shit just was. It took a left turn very, very fast. So although they came in, they knew that they wanted to lead other people. They knew that they wanted to, they truly did believe, in these UFOs at first, in what they thought. Or at least they put so much faith in it that they started to believe it. But it really was not good intentions, because there was an energy and degree of a little bit of manipulation there, because they had not bore witness to a lot of the things that they claimed, but they claimed that they did. So there were lies told. There it is, the manipulation reverse. The Moon. Manipulation. The Magician reverse is the illusion. We're going to bring people under the guise of we're just doing things, because remember, they had a lot of biblical influence as well, mixed in with a lot of New Age thought. And they would bring people with, in with, so-called principles and morals and, doing the right thing for the betterment of the world. But it was all manipulation, magic. There was a little bit of the esoteric is what the magician is also speaking of too. But again, it represents that illusionment. Seducing people with the thought of, even though we're a society, we're a group, but you do have choice, you do have free will. But they truly didn't. They had to end up cutting their hair. They all had to dress alike. They all had to adopt the same type of mannerisms, so that was severely under a lot of control. But in the beginning, he was ready. He was gung-ho. He had met up with this woman. He got a lot of confidence from her. And even though that he experienced some sort of resistance there, some sort of self-doubt, him teaming up with her kind of, smoothed all of that worry out for him, if that makes sense. And that Moon energy, once again, it's funny how we have the Sun and the Moon here, right? So sometimes when you get the Moon and the Sun here, just a quick lesson. I know this is not my tarot class, but just a quick lesson. The Moon and the Sun can represent bipolarism. It can represent extreme, when it comes to emotions, almost like a conflict of the mind type of thing. You know, it's a lot of conflict there mentally, inside of himself. That moon and that sun, it can do that. That can represent mental struggle, personality disorder, if you will. But I'm not trying to get too deep into that, guys, because I don't want this reading to be super long. But I just thought that was really powerful, how those two divinities showed up. And we're talking about his mental state of mind, right? Okay, so that was Swords in the beginning. Did he believe? I want to ask straight up. Did Applewhite actually believe? Did he truly believe in his heart, in his own visions, in his own teachings? Did he believe in this? The Fool reverse. The Moon again. Deception. This Queen of Cups, this is a very spiritual card. So this talks about, so he did have an unwavering faith to an unhealthy degree when it came to almost like an extremist, if that makes sense, when it comes to spirituality. So he did have that. That was true. But there was a lot of embellishment in some of the things that he would say to other people. We have this Fool reverse, and then we have the Seven of Swords and the Moon. He lied about a lot of things. He was very uncertain and unsure of himself, and he relied so much on the even his community. The faith in the unwavering faith in the group of people he brought together. He's seen how much they believed in it. So that would also kind of, in a twisted way, you know, solidify his own belief in the things that he was teaching. So he did have a he started off, he really did have that, you know, that very strong faith as it related to religion. He believed in that thing, but then somehow he got twisted in his mind. His mind was not in a healthy mental state. His mind was very troubled with that moon and that sun that let us know from that let us know that in the beginning. But somewhere down the line, he began to use spirituality to deceive other people. Very deceptive. And with his followers, the world is his followers. And remember, the world talks about the next level. If you think about the basic meaning of the world in tarot, it's graduation, promotion, getting to the quote-unquote next level. Now remember, according to his cult, the next level was heaven. So he really lied about a lot of stuff. He was really risky in the things that he would make his cult, his community, his members do. They lived a very, very risky and dangerous lives, and his way of things was so dangerous. It caused harm in other people. It put other people in the way of harm. And then we have that 10 of Pentacles right here. That talks about, you know, the 10 speaks about endings. Because of his beliefs, because of his irresponsible behaviors, it caused a lot of people harm. And we know that ultimately the ending for a lot of the members was death. But see, this Hangman talks about, you know, how he switched his mind a lot. See, in his mind, Spirit is showing me that Applewhite, although he stayed for the most part one way with his members, in his mind he was a lot of different ways. It was times that he did not truly believe in some of the things that he was saying, you know, but he continued to try to push that narrative, and once again use the energy and the devotion of his followers to help him to try to, you know, okay, put him in that mind frame. It's like, oh, I'm starting not, you know, my faith is wavering, but I see the devotion in my members' eyes, and that's what's going to keep me to keep on with this type of narrative. So I just want to make it clear what I'm saying. Yes, spiritually, he was true to his spirituality, but somehow along the way, things got corrupted. But a lot of it was by way of his mind. He suffered a lot mentally. That moon speaks about a lot of, You know, spiritual things were done too to keep these people in line. Remember that T she was into a lot of metaphysical things, dark arts and things like that. So they would do certain type of rituals, Spirit is showing me, to keep these people completely in a state of being brainwashed, for lack of a better term. They use sexual manipulation or seduction. Ooh, he was really... Absolutely, he did. Yes, and that's the twisted part, because he made them denounce gender, but he was very sexually charged. He was very conflicted in his mind. His sexuality brought him a lot of grief and struggle, and a lot of mental grief and struggle too. Once again, he really suffered from a lot of I'm trying to avoid the word mental illness, because there is a stigma that is, unfortunately, it has a very negative connotation. So I'm trying my best to avoid that. But mentally, he was troubled. He did suffer a lot by way of his sexuality. The Knight of Wands said he was very sexually charged. He was. And I'm going to ask, was he in fact ever attracted to any of the members there, and did he use manipulation to get them to do things? Because that is what Spirit is showing me, but I wanted to come out in the cards. But yes, mentally he struggled a lot, and this Knight of Wands let me know. The Knight of Cups talks about courtship, manipulating people to make them feel trusting you. They trusted this person so much that they turned against their own minds and did things with this man. Absolutely, he did. Knight of Cups, this is him as the Knight of Cups, and also the Page of Cups. And this Nine of Cups tells me that he got a lot of satisfaction out of it too. He had a lot of pleasure out of doing this. Yes, he did. And that was the conflict in his mind. I'm teaching these people to be genderless, to denounce sexual urges, but I have so many of them myself. And as a matter of fact, I am attracted to some of my members. Ace of Wands. Absolutely. I'm going to be a little bit bogus, but Ace of Wands, if you know, some of my people that's been reading tarot for a while, we know Ace of Wands can be a penis. It could be a penis, and especially with this Knight of Wands, he was very sexually seductive and charged, so that was the conflict. That was the it was just, that's, to me, that's also attributed to the cult mentality. People they were so blinded. They were so blinded that even when they saw the truth of the heart of the truth right in front of them by way of their leaders and their behaviors, they still chose to blindly proceed with this. People watch them in their sleep and watch them, get dressed. He was perverted. There was perversion there. His energy when T passed away, because she ultimately passed away of eye cancer of the eye that metastasized and spread to her kidney, I believe. And that was a conflict right there. Cognitive dissonance. They believed that their bodies would transform from this human flesh. This vehicle would transform from this human flesh into an alien body. But when she died, when she passed away, that was the conflict of the mind right there. Well, wait a minute. How did she die when our bodies are the ones that take us to the next level? So then he had to recreate his narrative, his belief. He started to go back into the Bible, into those spiritual beliefs that, our bodies may deteriorate. That's what it would look like to the human eye, but something else. We were spiritually descended. So it became from a physical ascension to heaven to a spiritual ascension from heaven. A lot of mental gymnastics, right? Look at that. Look what flipped out. Look what flipped out. Extreme sexual manipulation, abusive behavior. Okay, so let's see. How does he show us his energy? when Nettles died. A lot of depression, extreme depression. He was shocked. He was sad. He wasn't expecting her to die. Ten of Swords, the verse talks about death. It really hurt him. He continued to try to communicate with her in her fourth, fifth dimensional body, her ethereal body, her spiritual body. He tried to use metaphysics, even though he went back to being extremist in the Bible, in the Christian faith, but he still tried to communicate with her. He was so distraught. He was so fucked up. He said, this was my partner. This was the one that kept me going. I needed her support. He felt overwhelmed, but he got something happened with him. He got very stubborn and stuck in his ways too, very rigid in his ways. He didn't know what to do anymore. Pay attention. A lot of depression and grief. It took him a while he was very shocked. It took him a while to get over that. But see this divine intervention that sits over this supporting card of the Three of Cups. That, remember, I teach you guys to look at images. You know, not so much the keywords of cards all the time. The Temperance. So like I said, he did try to communicate with her. As a matter of fact, he definitely thought that he was. He feels like he was still leading and guiding her. As a matter of fact, I saw in one of the videos that I watched before that he kind of deified T. Now she was their God. She was their Jesus. She was the example. Her vehicle broke down. It couldn't, quote unquote, it couldn't wait for us for the ascension, the physical ascension. That was a new teaching that he began to teach the remaining members that were there. How did the members feel the moment they realized that they would have to take their own lives? Now we're going to fast forward. The moment they realized that they had to take their own lives by way of suicide, I don't know how that was filled up, but that's how they felt. Very, very mentally stuck. They said, we've come this far. Some of those people had just joined a couple of months before they had to take their lives. But some people felt mentally stuck. They were trapped. They didn't know what to do. This is all they'd known this entire time. You know, mentally, it was like they were blinded. They were caught up. They were stuck. Some of them didn't want to do it, but they had been so brainwashed and fed with so much information over the years. Look at that deception. The spiritual deception and the perversion here. You know, it was so much where it was programmed into their minds that by the time it was time to drink that, you know, to eat that poison in that applesauce, it was just, they weren't thinking for themselves. It was so, their minds were so warped and caught up with the deception that had been happening all over the years. They were so vulnerable. Nine of Wands shows us this. They were so mentally vulnerable. They were physically vulnerable. They were sexually vulnerable. It's like they just said, okay, well, we're just going to put all our faith. This is what we've been doing. But they were very, very emotionally and mentally confused. They were sad. A lot of them didn't want to do it. Some of them did, but there were some that were there that were scared. But that Magician, that a lot of conflict thoughts in mind, they didn't want to do it. Some of them even resisted when they were getting ready, when the applesauce is made and they were given that applesauce. Spirit is showing me this, that some of them didn't want to take it, but they just said, fuck it, I'm here, I'm going to take it. Once again, that years of programming, mental programming. But there was a lot of conflict there. They would continue to be manipulated. The Magician, all the way to the end, there was manipulation there. Show us the energy the day that they took their lives. Show us the energy there. The day that the 39 remaining members took their own lives. Show us the energy there. Death. Very, Nine of Swords. This is very sad. A lot of them didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it. But by that time, mentally, they were already gone. It was too late. That High Priestess, once again, abusing people by way of being indoctrinated in lied to and deceived and abused for so many years. It's Nine of Swords. Some of them couldn't sleep at night. They wept. They were sick. They were starting to get physically sick. But something of that manipulation pushed them anyway. And this is how they were all laid out. They were laid out. Come through, Spirit. They were laid out on their backs. All of them had the same Nike shoes on, the same track suits. And this is literally how they found them, in their beds. And look at that religious mural right there. Even though they were scared, they were terrified, they were paranoid, they were sick, they did it anyway. The High Priest is reversed. By way of extreme brainwashed, being extremely brainwashed, indoctrinated, a sick and twisted spiritual narrative. They took it anyway. Come through, Spirit, the devil reverse. They did it anyway. There was extreme. They were under extreme amount of stress. Their brains was clouded. They were confused. And when your brain is clouded and confused and you're not clear-minded, you're going to make irrational, hasty decisions, which can lead to the consequence, unfortunately for them, was death. There were young children there, depression, sad, sacrificed. Two of Pentacles. Okay, guys. So we opened up. The ancestors were closed. This deck. Just to see any final words to conclude this reading. Shock. Soulmate reverse. Play chess, not checkers. This is extreme strategy. They strategically manipulate these people to take their own life, to release and let go, thinking that they were going to be unified. Soul, remember the soul would unify on some heavenly realm and join the rest of the people that were on the rest of the beings that were on the next level. And this shocked the fuck out of the world when they recovered those 39 bodies. Lovers, that Lovers card, blessings again, protection. They thought, they just put their faith in the people that were around them. See how the same cards coming out? Come through, Spirit. Okay, guys, this concludes the reading. I'm very interested to look at your thoughts, your comments in the comment section below. Please give me more content that you guys want to see. I'm open to those suggestions. I am Mama Magical. Until next time, guys, stay safe and stay well.